Pow Kamakawa with your hosts, Andrew Garner.
And Chris Ramos.
Tonight, we cover Fear Agent by Rick Remender.
Welcome back. Yes, Fear Agent.
Fear Agent is a very science fiction love tribute to sci-fi.
Yeah, like it picks up on the old, I guess, traditional sci-fi aspect of like man is running into every monster out in the universe.
Sort of like Star Trek in a way. He's very set in exploring, but then also brings like the bounty hunter isms of like Star Wars and things like that.
Buck Rogers and
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the classic old school sci-fi, little tributes in there and things like that. But it's a really cool story. I think we both like Fear Agent. And this was like, I've read some Rick Remender stories, such as Black Science, which was similar to Fear Agent, but it was very grandioso, bigger than life, bigger multiverse jumping and all this, that, which is cool. But I think this is a little more grounded, comparatively.
Well, and and it follows, I think, what people are like. It's almost like an Indiana Jones in space, right?
I believe,
Good way to say that.
Mm-hmm.
That drinks.
Yeah. You know what that means.
So the other part of it too is, I think that the podcast in general, we have been talking a lot about what indie comics are. We've been talking about what mainstream comics are, and I think there's just some gems out there that are considered indie comics. As popular as they've become, they're still not some of the main publishers.
Sure. And especially as big of a writer and creator as Rick Remender, his own creator-owned stuff is really good as well.
Yeah. So this is published by Dark Horse Comics, and Dark Horse is a lot like Image or any of the other sort of indie printers and publishers. You kind of have to pitch it to them and say, this is my deal, and then they'll say, all right, well, it's creator owned stuff, and they have since collected Fear Agent into some really nice editions, hardcover editions, of course. We always try to
if you can find the hardcover editions.
We're really bad at promoting ones that are out of print
because we love the stories.
Yeah.
And so yes, Ramos, you read those in the hardcover library editions.
Yeah, and the library editions are oversized and then some. They're taller. They're like 12 and a half inches tall as far as volumes go. And there's two of them, and they came out years ago, and then
around 2012 and 2014.
Yeah, and they got a little a following going on. It's sort of like one of those B films that people are all of a sudden really into, and maybe they didn't do good when it first came out, but then people are like, this is great. Right. So the volumes that they collected, again, Dark Horse makes some great collected editions. I mean, they do really nice glossy covers and interior designs and art, and they have plenty of stories and forwards and
extras
sketches and extras in the back. So
absolutely,
it's quite the volume to have in even reading,
especially
through the story.
even that's a chunky one too.
Yeah,
it's got a lot collected in it. I think I have the page count offhand.
It's almost 500 pages.
480.
Yeah,
and the second edition, or the second volume, I should say, is 520 pages, and usually those are broken down even more than that. So for that to be that big, it's pretty cool.
I mean, and the print quality, the pages,
the
pages
paper
is very.
They have some of the best paper in printing.
Yeah, that's why they're so heavy.
Yeah.
A little tip: if you pick up a huge book and it doesn't really feel heavy, the paper is junk. But
or super thin.
It really does have a really well made book. It's split up great, and since Rick Remender wrote it all, it's cohesive.
Yes. And then I read them, so I kind of split it up a bit as a more budget friendly and a little easier approach to this, especially as a blind buy. I bought it as Fear Agent Final Edition Volume 1, which is a soft cover, and that covers the first 2 volumes of the book. And then I found a great deal when I was out comic book hunting, and they had the other 3 volumes for cheap. So it doesn't matter how you read these stories. We can recommend the hardcover editions, but again, it's about reading the stories that matter.
Yeah, and seeing the artwork as it was intended of is a great thing. But again, just capturing the character and falling in love with the character, I think, is
Exactly.
the most important thing here.
Yeah. So that's how we read it. And I guess now we can talk about kind of what's Rick Remender been up to, Ramos? Like what's his origin there?
I mean, Rick Remender is, sometimes people say, oh, they're a writer, artist, or writer, creator. Whatever. He's just a writer, but he's really good, right? Because I think he picks up on, he kind of writes stories like how I would want to write. You pick up on all of the things that you like in this genre. He's very sci-fi. He's very
passionate about it.
Yeah, other dimensions. He's very like universal. And then he takes everything he thinks is cool with that and he puts it all into his characters. And you really like see that because even when you're reading it, you're like, this character is sort of a combination of this person and that person, that person, that person.
Sure.
So it is cool to say, all right, this is like Star Trek and Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Buck Rogers and a little bit of Blade Runner or something. It's like he smashes all that together. I know Rick Remender also as a Captain America writer.
Yep.
He's really done well on that title. In fact, they're coming out with a new omnibus collection for him.
Yes, he finally gets an omnibus.
Which is a really big
Marvel,
deal for our writers to be
yes.
like, you're collecting my work,
Yeah.
So he's going to have that. He
has Uncanny X-Force. He has that in an omnibus. Yep.
That was okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's very different, but that's all right. There's very definitely a big following for that.
Well, they pull they pull writers in like him and they say, flip the script a little.
Yeah.
That's the big issue is take these
It's
characters.
a creative challenge.
Yeah. Well, especially someone like Captain America, it's like write a wacko story and make it,
because we still want it to be a Rick Remender story.
Yeah.
But we want it to be Rick Remender meets Captain America. Okay.
I mean, if they said, here, Rick, write something about World War II, I don't think he would be okay with that. They do follow their strengths and that's his strength.
Sure. And then he did like Uncanny Avengers, and that was cool.
Black
Science. We mentioned that. Low, Tokyo Ghost, The Scumbag, and Deadly Class is one of his all-star ones.
Oh, yeah, Deadly Class.
I still want to read that.
Is that Image?
That is...
That's Dark Horse.
That is... Image.
I did it. Image.
Yeah, so he's definitely one of the, when we talk about like upcoming like writers and artists and things like that, he definitely falls in that category.
He's a young guy,
Yeah, he's only like 48. Jeez.
And that's kind of the fun thing too, is to find a story that is either recommended by someone like us, so go get it, and then while you're reading it, you kind of start really enjoying not necessarily the characters, but you enjoy like the style, right? So it's cool to actually find a style. And now that you know that, you're like, I'm gonna look up other Rick Remender stuff.
Yeah, just some little tidbits or Easter eggs there. For Rick Remender, he also worked on the Iron Giant, Anastasia, the Titan AE, and the Adventures of Rocky and Bully One Call series. So you might have seen some of his work and just not know it was Rick Remender.
That's funny because now that I remember that when I was reading this originally, because this is my second read through, I looked him up and I was like, oh, he wrote Iron Giant.
Right. Yeah. I was like Iron Giant, that's my childhood.
Like, oh yeah, that was awesome.
Right.
That was great.
Right.
So he's pushed genres and that's amazing that he's jumped mainstreams and but I think at heart, he's a good comic writer.
Yeah,
really,
for sure.
Because his imagination is wild enough to be able to try to contain on pages. I think he'll go far.
Cool. And then I guess now jumping to the main story of what is Fear Agent, we jump in to this weird, wacky of a sci-fi adventure.
Now that we've made it wacky. Heathrow, that's the main character.
Yes.
Heath.
Heath. Yeah, they refer to him as Heath a lot. Yeah.
I love his name. Heath Huston.
Yes.
Or
Houston.
Heath Huston.
I say Houston.
Because he's from Texas.
Yes.
He's got a belt buckle from in the state of Texas, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the story follows, I mean, it jumps right away into him just being out in space, so you get the idea right away that this is very much like not in Kansas anymore.
No.
I mean, it pretty much opens right away with just him surviving.
He starts out very bounty hunter like.
Yeah, by like alone.
Yeah, alone. Yeah, sure. And so I was like, oh, okay, this is, we've seen this before, but let's see what the new take on it is and whatever. I guess we should mention the artist, Tony Moore, and let me get the other one quick. And then Jerome Opeña. The work they do on this art definitely complements Rick Remender's like vision of this book.
Yeah, and that's the other, it's very bright, like it's very crisp. I think Rick Remender has just enough quirkiness to kind of pull that off.
Oh yeah.
So it's not it has moments
or it's very serious, but yeah.
Or it gets like a little spooky or like maybe a little like alien gore, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, a little bit. Like he's swimming in it. Yeah. But then it comes back to the story and it comes back to the writing, and then you realize that he's got a million other characters that he can just introduce, and really he keeps the narrative going.
Yeah.
I have to just do a little shout out to like the Fear Agent's costume. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's very iconic the way he made it. It's simple. It's sort of like a Ghostbusters that has that feel to it, except you just put it in orange.
It's like a jumpsuit.
Yeah,
like an orange jumpsuit, and he's got like boots with spurs on them, which is hilarious.
And a jetpack,
and a huge jetpack that just looks like a big rocket. Like
and then he has like attachments he can put on like his gun or whatever.
Yeah, his little blaster
and stuff.
And then he has like a hip holster, so he kind of has that cowboy feel. Like a space cowboy. And then you find out through the story that he is a fear agent, and that other creatures and other aliens know him. Like when they see him, like you're
the fear agent.
Yeah. So I think that's where that bounty hunter feel comes from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you recognize them by their suits.
Yep.
The way
and he like takes a mission, and says, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna go, tackle this task like any like bounty hunter or anybody who's trying to get a reward is." And he sometimes screws it up, or he does the job, but with other consequences that follow up with it.
Like he does job by like blowing everything up.
Yep.
And he always like stumbles through it. And he's always like mumbling about.
Oh yeah, and he tries to always be drunk.
Yeah,
he drinks a lot.
Where's my whiskey, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he kind of has the Texas mentality.
He does. Yes.
So it is part of the story that he takes the don't mess with Texas and he brings it out into the universe.
And we're not saying we're no experts on like Texas mentality, but like that's what it kind of portrays.
I guess if you were to take someone and say what would be like a really good gunslinger out, okay, fine, let's go with the Texas trope.
Yeah. But I think that was so cool because it's very clashing against like cultures and things like that, and very like inserting yourself into this culture.
Yeah.
And like, nope, we're just going to shoot you. Because he doesn't even have like a translator in his collar or anything to understand.
He screams at people.
He just screams at people.
So, you also get really nice moments in the comic where he does like flashbacks.
Sure.
So while the story starts out, typically, stories like to just throw you right into the action. Yes. It's a good way to start. It's a good way to hook the reader.
It is. It's very different because when we were reading this, the first two volumes are like action, like kind of telling you who Heath is
Mhm.
and what his world is. The third volume is his origin story.
Yeah.
And that was like, oh,
And that story is
okay.
called The Last Goodbye.
The Last
I really
Goodbye.
like
So
that.
it definitely makes you appreciate where he came from to go to this point at the beginning of the book, which is very different than what I'm used to, like traditional like comics and stuff like that. So I thought that was very interesting how Rick Remender planned that out.
Yeah, where he, he did it the right way. He made you love the character first.
Yes.
And then he brought it back down to
Right.
this is why the character is acting
Sure.
the way
And
he
I guess
is.
that, you kind of, it goes against that cliche of doing the origin story first and then doing the character.
Yeah.
It's nice to change it up.
Yeah, and the other part of the story is there's I don't want to ruin it, but there's a little bit of time travel in it.
Yep.
That's a good
Sci-fi.
sci-fi.
Oh,
story.
spoiler! Time travel.
Yeah,
happens
spoiler
once.
alert. There's a sci-fi story and it has to do with time travel.
Okay. But
Got it.
Yep.
I'm in. And that's really what drew me to the story
Okay.
too. When I was first reading about it, is all the sci-fi, and then of course the time travel, and then of course it was like looking at some of the art, just flipping through. It's like, yeah, I'm in.
I guess I don't know about you, but I get tired of reading it and watching time travel these days, just because time travel is an easy thing for people to do. So when he did time travel, I was a little off put by it, but he doesn't spend like the whole entire book talking about time travel. He just does it for like a couple chapters, I think.
Yeah,
Couple issues.
I'm with you on that, and not to like get on a soapbox or anything.
No,
but,
that's all right.
I think time travel is used as number one, like an easy out crutch that writers can do when they write themselves into a corner, and then they're like, "Oh, let's do time travel and
I feel that.
change this."
Mhm.
So that's one way to do it, and I think that's maybe why some people get really like
Burnt out.
And the other way to do it, I think, is to talk about time travel and just give so much like data about it that it goes over a lot of people's heads.
Oh, absolutely.
Like my wife will not even allow like time travel talk. It's just like, it just is annoying. And
you definitely, if you're going to do a time travel story, you have to
makes your head hurt.
You have to simplify it and make it fun, but you have to do it in a way nobody else has done it, or you just have to immerse it in your story so much.
Yeah, make sure it's part of the story for a reason.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do a flashback, is different than time travel. And time travel itself is, has to have consequences. That's why people like it.
Yeah.
I think the first thing people always get to when they think of time travel is like Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Like his photograph like disappearing through the course of the movie. And they're like, see, there's consequences.
Yeah.
And that just makes it like a topic that you should do or that you shouldn't do because don't mess around with
that.
Now your whole story is
and there's definitely consequences and things that follow up when he does
in this book.
So that was really cool to see that happen.
And
very well thought out.
It also showed that there are much stronger forces and much stronger aliens out there than humans, because this could have been just like
humans are the greatest
race, or just race like humans fighting and other people
universe.
fighting.
And
what are the
like,
stakes?
No, you're just a peon.
What is there to lose? What is there to gain? And if you're trying to right a wrong, okay, maybe then it's worth it. Pull at your heartstrings a little bit.
Just a little quote, I guess, or for one of the panels. So Heath is like chasing down this monster and everything. He fights him and he kind of runs off the monster a little bit, and then he goes, "Set phaser to cowardly monkey." And that's kind of the humor that's brought about to this book.
And it is funny. He brings up some other. It might take me a little while to find the panel, but it's like he's talking to the reader a little bit.
Yes.
So he mentions things a lot. Like he'll say.
He does a lot of narration.
Yeah. Like in the future, they said you could just press a button and, get whatever food you want.
Yeah.
He's
no,
like, that doesn't work. And if it did, it tastes like cardboard. And, so it is fun in that way. You get a little bit of that Iron Giant, humor. I think
Sure.
other Black Science humor,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it's just like you think, oh wow, well, why don't you just do this? And then he immediately answers your question for you.
Right. And he gets nervous and he gets scared. He's a very imperfect character.
Yeah.
And that's what's really fun about it. To kind of see his flaws and how he deals with them.
And he always just
or
says,
lack of. He doesn't deal with them. He just represses them.
like, it'll work out in the end. It always does. Something will happen.
Yeah.
I've got tricks.
Yeah. So it was a really fun read, I will say. Going through. Okay. Yeah, it was a really just fun read. Definitely a lighthearted, not super complex sci-fi story. If you get to the first 2 volumes, it kind of like takes you through the story. Third volume gives you the origin. This origin story, just to touch on that, when you get to like volume 3, this is like super tragic.
Well, and I guess we should mention there are some adult themes in here.
There is. Yep.
Drawing and stuff
Sure.
like that,
Yeah.
so.
Don't let ordinary kids read these.
Read it first.
Read it first. Yes. And the art's incredible. It definitely complements the story. A lot of different aliens and stuff that you've never seen so much, but really fresh designs.
Yeah, and how they interact, of course, with the storyline and why they're there. You always have to think when a writer's adding something into a comic, they don't have as much space and time to develop as you would think, right?
Yeah.
So they don't usually put in a monster or a villain and have them do nothing for 10 issues.
Sure.
The action has to keep going, and then everyone that's thrown in here, there is a purpose to them, whether they pop up later on or if it's just part of like pushing a different emotion that Heath has.
Yeah.
Or building his character just a tiny bit more.
Yeah.
I do like that his facial expressions they really make him just
sell it. Yeah. Sell the scene.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, it is funny because you see him like frantic, and you're like, I would be like that too,
Yep.
So he's a big bounty hunter, but he's frantic just like anyone else.
And then he tries to have heroic moments, and they just kind of epically fail,
like in front of everybody.
Yeah. So he's always looking for the hero moment, even in the darkest of times. He's always looking for him. So yeah, we definitely recommend Fear Agent by Rick Remender, and we. No matter what edition you pick up, if you stumble upon a hidden gem like the hardcover edition, or you get the softcover final editions, or just the regular trade paperbacks.
Yeah.
As long as you enjoy the story, that's what matters.
Yeah. Leave a mention in the comments how you like it and what you think.
This is Andrew Galaner
and Chris Ramos
signing off.